Om Shanti. The next lesson that we're going to cover today is the lesson of how we're getting this knowledge, because all these things of that the human soul doesn't reincarnate into animals, and the law of karma is so connected to the drama that goes on in our individual lives, is knowledge that we don't really have, and no human being could actually have within themselves, because the one that actually knows all these things is the one that stays outside of the cycle. And that's true to life, really, in the sense of, if you've got a problem in your household and you're trying to deal with it when you're affected by all the emotions in-house, then you're more likely to add to the problems rather than being the solution to it. And so, because everyone was in a sense, a body-conscious state, it takes the one who retains knowledge and remains separate from the cycle of birth and rebirth to actually come and inform us of where we're going wrong and adding to our own complications. So of course, once you've got the knowledge, you can actually utilise it in your households and actually make a household like a temple, and make it a very peaceful place as you become more powerful and more connected to your true nature. That would happen naturally. So it's not something that you're forcing, it's something that's, your desire, pure desire to transform certain negative aspects of the self, actually have an influence on others, because they show a good example to them, and people sometimes unbeknown follow a good example because that person's just around them, and when they're more peaceful they naturally become more peaceful because the atmosphere gets affected. So basically it all started in 1937 when this man, Dada Lakraj, had a vision of a soul, basically. And a vision isn't obviously something physical, it's something that you see in your mind's eye. So he saw his uncle leaving his body, or the soul of his uncle leaving his body. And all the energies of the body went from the tips of the toes to the centre of the forehead. And he wasn't actually with his uncle when his uncle passed away, when the soul of his uncle left the body, but he saw it in his mind's eye. So that's what a vision is, something that's not in front of your physical eyes, but is something in your mind's eye. And when the soul left the body, he realised that everything about ourselves, everything about the personality, the character, the persona, the presence, is in this tiny, tiny, infinitesimal point of light or point of power. So once he knew that, he grasped something very unique. He was a millionaire jeweller, and he had, like all of us, just a normal household. He had 12 gurus, and he was very much involved in the reverence and the respect and admiration of these people of power who were the gurus of India. And he had 12 of his own, in which he always felt that he must never upset or must never show any kind of disrespect. But then again, he wouldn't, because he wasn't that type of person. Very kind man, but very much a Hindu with 12 gurus, and always carried around with him a picture of Narayan in his pocket, and got it out and did his pujas to, his reverence to, his respect to, worship to. And so once he had this realisation that we're all souls, basically, all tiny points of light, he took himself away to his favourite meditation place in Benares, and he started to meditate on being the point, separate to matter, which is quite a revelation, really. It's kind of quite a realisation when you realise that you are light and you are eternal, and you have taken a body on loan, and you are using matter as a trustee, and you are an actor in a costume, and you are a witness to the byplots and different dramas that come our way throughout the day. And basically he started to remove the feelings of the name and form of the body. So he kind of like went beyond the feelings of being a male or female, and he realised that he was being helped, that there was a being that was helping him create a new consciousness, which is a Brahmin consciousness. He was renamed Brahma because Brahma means creator, and he was generating a new consciousness. And as time went on, he started to have other visions. I'm not going to go too much into that because I want to go through the whole three aspects of the creation, the sustenance and the destruction that takes place, or the transformation of the consciousness and how it takes place. But he basically started to follow a different lifestyle, a pure lifestyle, in which he basically looked on his arch-enemy as body consciousness. He realised that the great war that takes place, the battle that no man has ever won, which is why he fights the battles externally, is because he loses the battle inside. And the battle inside is against your own negativity. Let's face it, if you focus on your negativity too much, it will make you very negative because you'd become very heavy, and it would defeat the object because you'd feel heavy while you should be feeling light. So he had this revelation in his hand that he was this tiny little shining star of light, surrounded by this mortal coil of flesh and bones. And he thought about it, he created an awareness of it, and it became a realization that was bringing out a natural state of happiness from within himself. So he started to study soul consciousness, in effect, because Vishnu is all about study, really, that you're becoming decorated by your own innate qualities, your innate virtues that are beginning to manifest from inside to out. So within the Vishnu consciousness, you've got these four arms, which it means that you're regaining and retaining all the qualities of the male and the female both. So you're becoming independent. So although we do come into relationships of friendships with others, family, friends and acquaintances, and although we do come into relationships, there's not that dependency on the relationship when you're getting back the qualities of male and female, because very often people hook up with other people to create a feeling of balance within themselves. So they feel imbalanced and they see something inside of themselves which they feel within themselves, which is interesting because it looks like it's coming from outside, but you're feeling it actually inside. So he was actually spinning this cycle of self-realisation, which is what he once was, he was now returning to. Hum so, so hum is the word that's used in India. That which I once was, I'm now becoming. He was realising that he was a decorated deity of Satyog, the Golden Age, and he was returning to that. So the Germans kind of stole the swastika from India and they turned it around, but originally it meant the realisation of the self. Swadharshan Chakradhari, the spinner of the cycle of self-realisation. You're moving the cycle, moving your consciousness back to its original form. So it's returning to its original point by going full cycle and coming back to your purest state of divinity. So the more he thought about this golden aged world that took place thousands of years ago and is about to come again, his consciousness moved away from the world outside to this inner world that created. This external world that you see at the present has been created inside anyway, because the soul inside had to change to create the world outside. So it looks like we're in the world outside, but it's our inner world that's affecting the world outside. And the inner world changes, so that you're connecting to love rather than fear, so that you're connecting to being more gentle with yourself, more kind towards yourself. You're connecting to your true state of being. So he started to spin the cycle of self-realisation. The mace that you see in the other hand, the mace is put down because he's got nothing to prove anymore. He's got nothing to defend, nothing to prove, and so there was many times when he was tested throughout his life where people, because it was new knowledge that was coming through him from the Supreme, he started to give these new revelations of knowledge, and whenever anything like that happens, it's always rejected at first because people are used to what they're used to. So he had many tests where people went against him and tested him relentlessly and would go out of their way to try to prove him to be a bad person, but he had nothing to prove. He didn't want to prove anything that he didn't need to prove, because he was the living proof of what he was. He knew that the truth would always come out. There was a situation when a journalist printed some bad things in the paper, and many people wanted to defend Dada Lakraj, who had been renamed Brahma Baba, the father of humanity, and he was defaming him a great deal. And although they wanted to defend him, some of the people, he said, "I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to do anything, let it be," because he knew that the truth would come out. And if he remained stable, still and powerful inside, then it affects the outside. And the journalist basically rewrote it into the truth and admitted the grey areas that he'd put in that were unnecessary. And so the mace is basically that he's no longer using his ego to control anyone. He's not being hurt when other people are trying to control him, because he's become full of self-worth, self-respect, self-esteem, self-confidence, and all those great things that you see are running out man's running out of those virtues at the present time. In the next hand down, which is the lotus, you can see that that means that you're being untouched, non-affected by everything that goes on. You know, you've got that space again where people are playing their roles. You're not interfering with their roles. You're not trying to say how they should play those roles. You're not trying to force anyone to be what they don't feel comfortable with not being. If that's their quest, if that's their path, then many people say, "Oh, leave them alone if they leave me alone," but in actual fact they're being affected because the effect is taking place in the mind, and soul consciousness stops the effect going on in the mind. So even though people are playing their role and just that irritates people, that means their role is affecting me. Or if they're trying to control and I feel uncomfortable with that, then it's still an effect. So I'm not actually trying to work anyway with the mouth, with the words, with the actions, because I'm working on my feelings, and it's my feelings where are the root cause of change that takes place from a body conscious feeling to a soul conscious feeling. So the lotus is famous for standing in the mud but not being affected by the mud. It stands proud, and we're happy to be in this world as long as we're not affected by this world. And that's up to us, really. You can practice soul consciousness, which is very useful, or you could practice being body conscious, which will just add to the problems, will add to the despair, will add to the worry, will add to the fear. So he chose to be detached and loving in that order. He started to love God in a kind of a very personal way. So it's as if God is with you, moving you, love is coursing through you, and he was in that presence as if the river had become part of the ocean of love, and that stopped any impurity coming in. People would talk to him about certain things, and after a while they didn't even have the courage to talk about negative things to him, because they felt that he was too, they felt in his presence that almost like a discomfort of talking about those things of the external world, and they only talked to him about spiritual things after a period of time. So that's the lotus. And the last one is the conch. And the conch is where you actually render service to others. You can either do this through in a physical way, where you support people physically, or you can do these things with your words. Words are full of inspiration. Why to say something negative about an angry man is that he's already feeling down about himself. Why to kick him twice? So you can actually say something that is, where he notices that you're noticing something about him, and his true nature will start to become activated, and that humility and that love always works because it goes through their defence mechanisms, which are the negative defence mechanisms of ego and competitiveness, ambitiousness. These are all negative things that the soul's taken up, so you're actually working through that. Or you could actually even pass on qualities. When you think of a person's quality, that reaches them. So you could have that mind to mind. You could just be in the same room and not even saying, if you say something nice to them, maybe they think you're trying to buy them or something, trying to get your own way. That's why you're being nice to them. But as soon as you think about the goodness of another soul, that reaches them wherever they are. They can be in this room, they can be far away. Our vibrations reach the sun, so our vibrations just go. They don't run out of power halfway. They are powerful, our vibrations. So this Vishnu state is a state of consciousness, really. It's the decorated state. It's when you actually start to study soul consciousness and study divine qualities and bring, word we use is dharma. Dharma is the inculcation of divine virtues. So even when you're having thoughts about God's qualities, you're imbibing those and inculcating them into yourself. And you can see Shiva above all this. What they've done on the path of devotion, they put Shiv and Shankar together. So they look on Shiv Shankar as the destroyer, but in actual fact the creator has already done his work. The Shankar is about becoming bodiless. We know that we come naked, we go naked, but we didn't realise it was naked of the physical identity. So as soon as we got a physical identity, we were no longer naked. So agreed, we don't bring material things with us, impossible, but we do bring the body conscious state with us, so we become image conscious as soon as we're old enough. And there's a lot of programming goes on by the company that you keep on whether your image is a good one or not. And going back to Brahma Baba, if we're going to follow that example, then we would be uncaring about what people think of our image, because our image is our original image. It's not the image that's been adopted, it's the image of the original consciousness. So this is what the bodiless state is. It's when you're perfectly aware of being a point of light, a point of eternal power, and you're lost in that experience, and you're merged in the remembrance of Shiva. So there's Shiva and Shankar coming together. So whatever comes towards you of a negative nature is being destroyed because of you've got returned to the point. When we start to think too much, when we start to speak too much, when our speed of thought speeds up, you hear how quick the words are. Nowadays, well, the Shankar state is the opposite state, where you're not overthinking, thoughts are coming, but they're very few, because the feelings of being the bodiless being, controlling the role, not controlling anyone else, controlling the self, the role, and also the atmosphere. So you're actually changing the atmosphere of a place, and the atmosphere naturally has an effect on others, speaking short, sweet and soft, and coming back to your true original state of being bodiless. Or another word for it is incorporeal. So incorporeal is everything's incorporated. All your qualities are being allowed to work for you because you've returned to soul consciousness. And soul consciousness is a consciousness. It's not just being a point, but it's playing the role of a trustee, playing the role of an actor, playing the role of a witness, like that. So if I'm wasting money, then where my money goes, that's where my mind will go. If I'm trying to build an image outside, whether it be in my role, my position, mother, father, what your profession is, that your mind will be pulled by that. And the reason why is because we've created it, and it will, you buy an elephant, you've got to feed it. So the actual position that I create of an image is we realise the position we've created, we withdraw from it. If praise comes your way, well, it will be dispraised tomorrow. You'll feel light today and feel heavy tomorrow. So you're actually learning to tolerate praise, to tolerate dispraise, to tolerate fame, to tolerate defamation. So, you're finding yourself in the position of no longer being needy of other people's respect or praise. Or it's almost like as soon as someone talks well about someone, you see their face light up and their energies rise, but that was from a catalyst from the outside, which will mean you'll come down again. When you deserve the certificates of being the embodiment of love, the embodiment of humility, the embodiment of sweetness, when you've returned to all these qualities, you'll get your certificate from God. You don't need anyone else's certificate. You'll get their blessings anyway. Blessings are a wonderful thing. You know, when you have negative thoughts about others, you're cursing them. And when you're having good thoughts about others, you're blessing them. You're sending them good wishes. And that will be returned. And also the curses will be returned as well, because there's a very subtle law of karma going on. If they feel something from me, then they'll start to feel that towards me. And if I feel better towards them, I'll start to heal that account of give and take on a vibrational level. Nothing to do with the give and take of matter, the give and take of vibrations and feelings that take place in everyday households. So these three things are more to do with God's roles that he plays. He plays a role he touched and came into the physical body of Brahma to give us the knowledge that we call the Murlis. And the Murlis are daily teachings that some of you will have known, that the Brahma Kumaris learn every day. All good students have a Murli every day, and that Murli is to be churned, studied and inculcated, and then the soul becomes independent in their own right, decorated like Vishnu. So you're not looking for any external decoration, because you're becoming decorated inside by God, the source of power, the source of love. And that destroys the old consciousness. So it's not a negative destruction, it's a destruction of something that is basically unhealthy for people, a body conscious state, an identity state. Just ask yourself, where does the physical identity stop? When they've done all their tattoos and their decoration and got 3 wardrobes full of different clothes, and they've looked as youthful as they can with the Botox and the plastic surgery and all those things. And you know, where does it ever end? You know, people need to start aging gracefully, because it makes you feel younger inside. The body may look older, but the soul is becoming a child again. So better to become youthful inside than worry about becoming old outside, because that's just the costume that a person tries to build. One thing that I'd like to mention before we finish is that when people do desire to change their identity, to add and improve, when the satisfaction of a desire occurs, it gives birth to another desire. So it's a never-ending. One guru once said that if you carry on in this world of worldly desires, all that will be left eventually will be your teeth, because you'll have eaten the rest of you away. So why people age so quickly externally is because they're chasing the image of becoming and retaining a state of being a child. And there's nothing nicer than being God's child. And God's child is one that starts to reflect his qualities through the life, through the matter, through the job that you're doing. This way we change job into joy. So anyway, we'll do some meditation to finish, and no doubt in time, when we get sorted, we will have a question and answers on this. But until then, that's God, generator, operator and destroyer. Om Shanti. So as I turn within, I recognise that my thoughts are like a generator, and I choose what I wish to generate. and I go inside to myself as the being that is using the physical costume, the body, and as I spread my own good wishes, my own peace, my own light into the world, I become aware that my own future is being made more secure, more powerful. Love will come to meet and greet me because I am sending love out into the world. Peace will come to meet and greet me because I am connected to myself and I am peace. And as I remain connected, my future is being created. I think of myself as a master fortune writer of my destiny. Others will feel this peace and make a decision to rewrite their own destiny, and on it goes until the whole world feels the inspiration to become peaceful. And it's so strange to think that a single thought can have such an effect on the world, and that single thought is I am a pure, peaceful, powerful soul, a pure, peaceful, powerful soul, a pure, peaceful, powerful soul. Om Shanti.